Chapter 1, A Glimpse on the Street. It was a scorching afternoon in Tel Aviv. The sun was unforgiving, casting harsh shadows across the pavement. On one side of a busy boulevard, a man named Yusuf sat on a torn cardboard mat. His face sunburned, his eyes empty. He hadn't eaten anything solid in 2 days. His clothes were tattered, and passers-by ignored him like he was invisible. But fate had other plans. A sleek black car slowed down. The windows were tinted, but the door opened and a man stepped out. None other than Benjamin Netanyahu, the former Israeli Prime Minister. He was there not for a meeting, not for politics, but for something far more human. He looked at Yusuf for a moment, then crouched beside him. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Yusuf hesitated. "Yusuf. I used to be a teacher." Netanyahu nodded. "Do you still dream?" The homeless man looked up, surprised. "Dream? I used to dream of sailing. Owning a yacht. I taught geography, I loved the sea. But now, I can't even afford a glass of water." Netanyahu stood, extended a hand, and said something that would change everything. "Come with me." Chapter 2, A Mysterious Invitation. Yusuf hesitated. But something in Netanyahu's voice felt sincere, almost unreal. He reached out, grabbed his hand, and stood up for the first time in hours. The driver opened the car door, and they both got in. Inside the luxury vehicle, silence reigned. Yusuf's eyes darted around the leather seats, polished dashboard, and cold bottled water resting in the cup holder. He reached for it with trembling hands. "Drink," Netanyahu said softly. "You look like you haven't had water in days." Yusuf nodded in gratitude. They drove through Tel Aviv, past skyscrapers and glimmering beaches, until the car turned toward the marina. Yusuf's heart began to race. Boats lined the horizon, small ones, large ones, and a colossal white yacht that towered above the rest. Netanyahu pointed. "That one's mine." Yusuf blinked, stunned. They walked along the pier. The crew saluted Netanyahu and helped Yusuf aboard. The air was salty, the wind gentle. Yusuf stepped onto the yacht like he was in a dream. "I promised you the sea," Netanyahu said. "You're going to sail again." Chapter 3, A Life Turned Upside Down. For the next few days, Yusuf stayed on the yacht. He had his own room, clean clothes, fresh meals, and conversations that didn't end in judgment. He cried the first night, not out of sadness, but because he had forgotten what comfort felt like. Netanyahu visited him daily. "I read about your past," he said one morning. "You were a brilliant teacher. Lost your job after a family tragedy, right?" Yusuf looked down. "Yes. My wife and daughter. They died in a car accident. After that, nothing made sense." Netanyahu placed a hand on his shoulder. "Grief destroys men. But you don't have to be destroyed forever." On the 6th day, they set sail. The open sea sparkled under the sunlight. Yusuf stood at the helm, steering the yacht while laughing like a child. He was alive again. Chapter 4, A Conversation That Changed Everything. That evening, as the sun set over the Mediterranean, Netanyahu invited Yusuf to the upper deck for dinner. A table was prepared with fresh seafood, wine, and soft music playing in the background. Yusuf sat in disbelief. Just a week ago, he had been searching through trash bins. Now, he was being served like royalty. "I want to ask you something," Netanyahu began, slicing into his fish. "If you could do anything with your life right now, anything at all, what would it be?" Yusuf looked down. He hesitated. Then, in a soft voice, he said, "I always dreamed of having a place by the sea. A small cafe or bookstore. Somewhere quiet. A place where people could come, feel peace. Like I used to feel when I read books to my students." Netanyahu smiled. "Why not make that dream come true?" Yusuf blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Netanyahu said firmly, "let's make it happen. You're going to have your own bookstore by the sea. Building a new future. A real estate agent showed him several spots, but one in particular caught his eye, a quaint, sunlit storefront nestled just off the main promenade in Tel Aviv. Its large windows opened toward the sea, and inside it had the scent of old wood and salt air. Yusuf stepped inside and closed his eyes. He could already imagine bookshelves filled with novels, poetry, and philosophy. A little counter at the back for coffee and tea. Armchairs by the windows for readers to sit, relax, and lose themselves in stories. "This is it," he said softly. "This is where it begins again." Netanyahu nodded. "Then it's yours." The renovation began immediately. Netanyahu hired a team of architects and designers, but let Yusuf make all the creative decisions. Yusuf chose soft, ocean-inspired colors, pale blues, warm beiges, and rich mahogany wood. He named the shop the Lighthouse, a symbol of guidance, of hope in the darkness. In the evenings, he and Netanyahu would sit in the half-finished bookstore and talk not about politics or power, but about life, literature, and the things that mattered to the soul. Yusuf laughed more now. He spoke with confidence. He walked with purpose. The homeless man who had once hidden from the world was now preparing to welcome it into his dream. Chapter 6, the grand opening. The day had finally come. After weeks of planning, painting, and preparing, the lighthouse stood ready. The front windows gleamed under the Tel Aviv sun. Inside, shelves brimmed with carefully curated books. Everything from classic literature to modern philosophy, and even a small collection of rare texts Netanyahu had donated from his own private library. A small sign hung above the door. "The Lighthouse, a place to find yourself." Yusuf stood behind the counter, wearing a crisp white shirt and a nervous smile. His hands trembled slightly as he arranged the final stack of books on the welcome table. Outside, a small crowd was beginning to gather. Netanyahu arrived, wearing no formal suit, just a simple navy jacket and kind eyes. He walked up to Yusuf and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've done it," he said. "No, we did," Yusuf replied with a grateful nod. There was no flashy ribbon-cutting ceremony, no press or cameras. Just people, curious locals, old friends of Yusuf from the street, university students, tourists drawn in by the warmth and sincerity of the space. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. A musician played soft classical guitar in the corner. Children sat on colorful cushions flipping through picture books, while elderly couples browsed shelves hand in hand. Yusuf floated through the room like a different man, shaking hands, recommending books, laughing with strangers. His eyes sparkled with purpose. That night, after the last customer left, Yusuf locked the door and turned off the lights. He stood alone in the quiet glow of the shop and whispered to the dark, "Thank you for not giving up on me." From the shadows of the street to the light of a new life, Yusuf had not just opened a bookstore, he had opened a new chapter for himself, and for everyone who would walk through those doors. Chapter 7, Ripples of Change. The bookstore wasn't just a store, it became a symbol. Within weeks, the lighthouse had attracted visitors from all over Israel. People came not only to buy books but to hear Yusuf's story, the man who once slept on cardboard and now owned one of the warmest places in the city. News outlets finally caught wind of the quiet miracle. But when they approached, Netanyahu politely declined interviews. "This isn't about me," he said. "It's about believing in someone who forgot how to believe in himself." Yusuf, now confident and composed, gave his first public talk inside the bookstore. The room was packed. "I didn't need millions," he told the crowd. "I needed one person to see me. One person to remind me I wasn't invisible." Tears welled up in the audience. The applause shook the walls. Soon, others came forward, people who had once been homeless, or broken, or lost. Inspired by Yusuf's journey, they began to believe again. Volunteers offered free counseling sessions at the bookstore. Students brought food and supplies for those still living on the streets. And new projects began forming: shelters, education centers, and more. Netanyahu, from a distance, watched it all unfold. One day, as he passed by the bookstore, he noticed a handwritten sign in the window. Change starts with one moment of kindness. He smiled quietly and walked on, his heart full. As for Yusuf, every day he opened his store. With the same ritual, he lit a small candle by the window and whispered, "For those still searching for their light." And so, from the cold streets to the warm shelves of a bookstore, Yusuf's story became a testament to what one human heart can do for another. A reminder that hope is not a fantasy, it's a seed, waiting to be watered by courage, compassion, and a second chance.